acceptable to the board. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, as for part B of the question, I'm informed that the post has not been advertised, and as such, the other parts of the question are not applicable. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, with regard to part C of the question, I'm informed that at a special board meeting held on 20th August 2025, the ECCEA board has unanimously approved that the present officer in charge of ECCEA be assigned the duties of director pending the filling of the post. As is the current practice, assignment of duties is made on ground of administrative convenience and does not give the incumbent any claim for appointment. Thank you.
Yes, may I ask the Honourable Minister, he has cited Section 9 of the Act that the person must have recognized qualification. Can the Minister say whether the qualifications of the person who the board has proposed does have a degree which is recognized by the HEC, Higher Education Authority Commission, and whether the master's degree as well is recognized by the HEC?
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the board will take cognizance of the qualification and so on. This I need to check with the board.
Second question. The Minister might be aware that this exercise, which is being done internally, and where the Minister is not in a position right now to say whether the person possesses the recognized qualifications, that person stands to gain 3 times her salary once she is promoted as acting director. She earns around 60,000. She will earn, including gratuity, 160,000. So therefore the question is that the minister should ensure before appointing that candidate that her degrees and master is indeed recognized.
I will leave it to the board to do the needful, and definitely someone will have to manage that institution, which is a very important institution, and we should not be targeting people uselessly.
Third member for Port Resource, Motalong.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. PQB 927, please.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, dental services are provided through 71 dedicated dental clinics, as well as a major hospital outpatient dental unit across the island. As per statistics available, Sitilakya Community Health Center serves a catchment population of some 7,400 persons and is located within a well-served urban area. Within a radius of 5 kilometers, residents of Sitilakya have access to several dental facilities, namely at St. Croix Community Health Center, 1.4 kilometers, Dr. Haidakan Mediclinics, 2 kilometers, Eastern Suburb CHC, 2.5 kilometers, and Bejitambu CHC, 5 kilometers. My ministry is in the process of reviewing the expansion of dental services in underserved regions or higher volume centers where the demand for oral health would be higher. Given that the existing Sitilakya Community Health Center were designed primarily for general primary care, retrofitting the facility to accommodate a dental surgery unit would require substantial infrastructural works and investment. Accordingly, establishment of a full dental unit at Sitilakya Community Health Center is not envisaged at this stage. My ministry remains firmly committed to ensuring equitable access to oral health care for all citizens. Residents of Sitilakya will continue to benefit from dental services available at nearby facilities, and clear referral pathways to the closest dental clinics and hospital dental units have been established to facilitate timely and convenient access to care.
Yes, you have Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. Considering the transport and other facilities that this region currently faces, may I request the Minister to consider this cost of dental services for Sitilakya, which currently is an issue for all these inhabitants? Thank you.
The Deputy Speaker, unfortunately, the building itself is not fit to accommodate a dental department into it. We'll look at a later stage if you can try to increase the space.
The Honourable First Member for Port with North Moat Island.
Merci, Monsieur le Vice-président. Question B 928.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, with regard to part A of the question, I'm informed that 160 students are enrolled at the Port West North State Secondary School for academic year 2025. Out of the 160 students, 81 are enrolled in the mainstream program, 59 are in the foundation program in literacy, numeracy, and skills, and the remaining 20 are in grade 9+, which is the last cohort of the failed extended program. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, as regards to the enrollment trend, the Port West North SSS has been subject to a decreasing one over the past 5 years, with the number of enrolled students as follows: 408 students in year 2019, 347 students in year 2020-21, the COVID period, 331 students in year 2021-2022, 289 students in 2023, 241 students in year 2024. I wish to inform the House that this decreasing enrollment trend has been observed not only in the Port West North SSS, but as well as in other state and private grant-aided secondary schools across the island. This phenomenon is due to factors such as decreasing student population and also choice of parents for admission in schools as per the education regulations. The said regulations provide that admission to grade 7 in a regional school is based on, first, the choice of responsible party, 2, the residence of the pupil in the geographical zone in which the regional school is located, and 3, the grade aggregate of the pupil in the PASAC assessment. The decreasing student population raises concerns with respect to the suboptimal utilization of government buildings and facilities and an uneven distribution of resources, both financial and human. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, my ministry is currently conducting an exercise on all the state secondary schools, including the Port West North SSS, in relation to enrollment for academic year 2026, taking into consideration projected admissions in grade 7 and 10 for the mainstream program as well as the foundation program. This exercise will determine the perennity of numerous schools, including Port West North SSS. Thank you.
Yes, Vice President.
Merci, Monsieur le Vice-président. L'honorable ministre a-t-il un plan peut-être de conversion de ce collège d'État en centre de formation professionnelle, tout en gardant certains aspects académiques afin d'attirer plus de jeunes et leur offrir une meilleure perspective pour l'avenir? Merci.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, yes, the EDB and my ministry, we are working on a list of government schools that are currently closed and have remained unused over the years, and also where we need to close them in order to see how to make optimum use of government infrastructure. Your suggestion will be taken on board.
Yes, B929 has been withdrawn, so we go to B930. The third member for Rivière des Audiences.
Thank you. Question B 930, s'il vous plaît.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I'm informed that there are about 3,000 children with special education needs, including around 649 suffering from autism and 140 from epilepsy, enrolled in SANI schools. Furthermore, 57 learners with autism and 53 with epilepsy are enrolled in mainstream primary and secondary schools. With regard to part A of the question, I'm informed that no formal study or survey has been carried out so far. However, following continuous interactions with stakeholders, including the families of the SEN children, and subsequently during the session dedicated to SEN sector during les Assises de l'Éducation, the challenges in relation to the schools and educational needs have been identified as follows. A, inadequate provision for physical accessibility in buildings. B, unavailability of specialized vehicles for the transport of children with disabilities. C, lack of SEN professionals on the market, such as speech therapists, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, and even SEN educators. D, inadequate specialized training to the existing educators. And E, absence of an effective early diagnosis mechanism for disabilities. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, as regards part B of the question, despite the existing financial constraints, my ministry is doing its utmost to ensure that these children are not left behind. We are therefore providing the following services to SEND schools. 1. Payment of grant in aid to NGOs and SEDEC schools registered with the Special Education Needs Authority to cover salaries of staff, hot meals, and special support services, occupational, speech, and physiotherapy. 2. Transport facilities for pickup and drop-off of the children and free bus pass are provided by my ministry for those attending public schools. 3. Adapted furniture provided to SEND learners. 4. Adapted textbooks, including large prints and braille. 5th, services of teacher assistants to help in academic challenges and of carers for daily living challenges such as eating and toileting. And 6th, implementation of barrier-free project is ongoing in primary and secondary schools to make way for adapted toilets, infrastructure, and accommodations to welcome and provide a conducive environment for SEND learners. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, in addition, I'm informed by the Minister of Social Integration, Social Security, and National Solidarity that the following facilities are provided, namely, refund of traveling expenses to children with disabilities attending daycare, specialized, integrated, and mainstream schools, refund of taxi fares to students with severe disabilities. As a new budgetary measure, the refund of taxi fare has been extended to children with autism spectrum disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and 100% duty-free facilities to parents of children with disabilities for the purchase of adapted cars. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, however, as a caring government, we want to do more for our children with disabilities to make them feel at par with others. This is why my ministry is collaborating with other stakeholders with a view to coming up with a continuum of care for all children with disabilities. The objective is to adopt a holistic approach to build a more inclusive society and positively support the children and their families. Thank you.
Yes.
Doctor, the Honourable Minister mentioned continuum of care. So I'm thinking maybe if you could clarify whether the Honourable Minister is thinking of carrying out regular assessments with a view to monitor progress and adapt approaches to address the unique needs of each and every child? Is that
Obviously, correct? Education is a dynamic sector, and definitely officials from the ministry and other ministries collaborate in order to look after the welfare of our kids, especially those kids with special education needs.
Honorable Tanu.
To ensure that these facilities are accessible to the early childhood sector as well. Thank you.
Now, there is, I don't know if when you're talking about early childhood, you're talking from 3 to 5, all right? And we also have an issue with those who are above 20. Definitely, according to the guidelines of SENA, okay, Special Education Needs Authority, there are clear guidelines, and definitely that part is taken care of by Ministry of Gender.
Honorable Jaman.
Is there any plan to cater for these students once they reach the age of 20?
Yes, that is an interesting question, and we, as we said, as a caring government, this has not been taken care so far, all right? Definitely, like last week, officials from my ministry met officials from other ministries in order to look deeper into that issue, in order to provide the proper cadre for these children to be taken care of below 5 and after 20, so that we provide this continuum of care, as I mentioned earlier. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable.
As what concerns the transport facilities for disabled children to these schools, is the ministry planning to implement more vehicles or to change rules in the near future?
I think one important thing that this budget brought, it is about the refund of taxi fare, all right, which was not there. And it's up to parents and the institution to avail themselves of these facilities which are provided, along with the 100% duty-free facilities for parents who can afford it for their kids.
Yes, B3 1 has been withdrawn. B9 2 has been withdrawn. So we go to the third member for Bobassa and Petit Rivière.
B933, please.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, with regard to local artists and the Status of Artists Act, my ministry has initiated a review of the legislation in line with the measures announced in the government program 2025-2029. The aim is to ensure that the Act better reflects the realities, expectations, and aspirations of the artistic community while aligning with international standards defining cultural workers. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, it must be noted that this Act was conceived and introduced under the previous government without adequate consultation with artists. As a result, many in the artistic community expressed dissatisfaction, feeling that the law did not sufficiently protect their rights nor reflect their realities. In fact, during the drafting process, l'Union des Artistes had voiced strong reservation regarding the content and objective of the proposed legislation. According to the Union, the Act in its form fails to provide adequate protection and recognition to merchant artists. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, it is worth recalling that during the debates on this very bill in 2023, the honourable member himself, still in the opposition side, had raised several concerns regarding the lack of an appropriate definition of the term artist, the insufficient social protection mechanism for cultural workers, and the limited consultation with the artistic community. The honourable member had also emphasised the need to align the law with UNESCO's definition of an artist and to ensure that merchant artists are recognised as full-fledged workers with equitable rights and conditions. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the new government shares these same concerns. We are, in fact, addressing precisely the shortcomings identified at that time through a comprehensive and inclusive review process aimed at strengthening the legal, social, and professional framework for our artists. We firmly believe that the voice of our artists must be at the very center of any cultural policy. We have therefore deemed it necessary to pause the implementation of the Act and undertake a comprehensive review to ensure that it truly serves the interests of merchant artists and align with international best practices. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, in this respect, my ministry has launched a national consultative process through the Convention nationale sur les arts de la culture, bringing together artists, cultural operators, and other stakeholders to collectively assess the sector and propose a strategic roadmap for its development. I am personally attending all sessions to hear directly from artists, including their views on the status of the Artists Act. Once consultations in both Mauritius and Rodrigues are completed, my ministry will consolidate the views expressed and proceed with a review so that the new framework truly reflects the aspiration of our artists. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, unlike in the past where artists were not sufficiently consulted, our government is adopting a participatory and democratic approach. The voice of our artists will remain at the center of our cultural policy, and the review of the status of the Artists Act will be treated as a matter of priority to ensure its implementation at the earliest for the benefit of all our artists. Thank you.
Monsieur le Président, l'honorable ministre peut-il indiquer à la Chambre si un registre national des artistes a été créé et quel est le nombre d'artistes qui sont inscrits à ce jour?
We are actually working on this, honorable member.
Peut-on savoir si son ministère a prévu des mesures pour soutenir les jeunes artistes émergents dans les régions urbaines comme dans les régions rurales, cela afin d'assurer une application équitable de la loi sur tout le territoire mauricien?
As I stated in my reply, we are working on this together with artists to know the grievance, and then a roadmap will be worked on it.
The second member for Rivière-des-Anguilles in Suyac.
Question B934, s'il vous plaît.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, with your permission, I shall answer this question. I wish to refer to Honourable Member to the reply I made to Parliamentary Questions B/848 at our sitting of 7th October 2025, wherein I highlighted inter alia that Private Health Institutions Act 1989 does not empower my ministry to regulate the course of treatment and services, and even less the fixing of the quantum thereof. I reiterate anew that the question of regulating the course of treatment and services offered by private healthcare institutions is indeed a complex matter which must be approached with due care and caution. It would require wide consultations with all relevant stakeholders, including patients' associations, private operators, insurance companies, and professional bodies. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, health services, unlike other commodities, vary widely in scope and nature, ranging from simple outpatient consultations to highly specialized surgical procedures, each requiring different levels of medical expertise, technological inputs, and infrastructural investments. Given this diversity, it would not be appropriate nor feasible to impose standardized or uniform pricing across a sector, as such an approach could risk service quality, discouraging investment, limiting patient choice, and affecting the overall sustainability of private healthcare systems. That said, government remains mindful of the need to safeguard the public interest, particularly in the area of pharmaceuticals, where the prices of essential medicines are already being regulated to ensure that patients have continued access to affordable and life-saving treatments. I'm informed that the Ministry of Commerce and Consumer Protection already regulates the prices of several essential pharmaceutical products through a regressive markup mechanism to ensure that medicines remain affordable. At present, this mechanism applies to 8 critical classes of medicines, namely anti-cancer, anti-diabetic, anti-hypertensive, cardiovascular medicines, inhalers, biological vaccines, and antacids. On the issue of possible collusion in the fixing of fees and charges, I wish to underline that it is the Competition Commission of Mauritius which is mandated by law to investigate and sanction anti-competitive practices in all sectors, including health. The Commission, where warranted, impose financial penalties and take corrective measures to ensure a fair and competitive market pricing. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I have been informed by Ministry of Commerce and Consumer Protection that Competition Commission had been approached to conduct an investigation in the health-related sector in line with its legal framework. At the level of my ministry, our main focus is to upgrade and strengthen services in the public health sector so that citizens may continue to access high-quality health care free of charge, and recourse to private treatment is not done out of necessity but as a matter of choice. On that score, I am pleased to announce that several foreign private hospitals have expressed their intention to establish operations in Mauritius. The presence of multiple hospitals competing in the sector is expected to foster healthy competition, which would eventually contribute to more competitive pricing for health services and treatment. For the information of the House, I wish to emphasize that this government has made it a priority to invest significantly in critical areas such as cancer care, renal and cardiac services, as well as in the continuous development of our medical personnel. I do not have any qualm in saying that our services in many areas are comparable to those of some of the best private health facilities locally and abroad. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, while the direct regulation of prices in the private sector is for all intent and purposes not feasible, the matter remains open for discussion in the context of wider consultations in the context of the forthcoming review of the Private Health Institutions Act.
Yes.
I refer to the cost of a radiological investigation in a private hospital. CT angiocardiac, 29,000 rupees. CT all abdomen contrast, 13,700 rupees, totaling 42,800 rupees. Will the Honorable Minister state whether at the level of his ministry, there are some comparative cost of pricing of services in comparison to the public sector and the private healthcare sectors.
We don't have any such system, but all these facilities are available in our own institutions. I would invite the honourable member to encourage your patients to come towards our hospital. You're welcome.
The first member for Cavian Felix.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. B935, please.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, as the House is aware, there have been several parliamentary questions over time in relation to the Police and Criminal Justice Bill, formerly known as the Police and Criminal Evidence Bill. The Police and Criminal Evidence Bill number 4 of 2013 was introduced in the National Assembly on 16 April 2013 for first reading. The National Assembly was subsequently prorogued and the bill never went through. I wish to inform the House that since 2013 this bill has had a rather checkered history, so much so that it has never really been finalised and certainly not gone through the legislative process. Thereafter, as from 2015, the preceding government looked for expert advice and reports were produced, including one by Professor Michael Zander KC, who opined that the bill ought to be introduced with the relevant codes of practice. And it is important to note that these codes of practice were, first of all, the exercise by police officers of statutory powers to stop and search. The second code would look at the searches of premises by police officers and the seizure of property found by police officers on persons or premises. The third code of practice looked at the statutory powers of arrest by police officers. The fourth code of practice related to the detention, treatment and questioning of persons by police officers. And the fifth one related to the identification process of persons by police officers. In 2016, Sir Geoffrey Rivlin QC, a consultant, was mandated by the Commonwealth Secretariat to review the Police and Criminal Evidence Bill, and in his initial report to Mauritius advised that, and I quote, "My recommendation in that report was that, subject to the views of the important stakeholders I was about to meet, provisional informations and provisional charges should be abolished. The alternative to the ongoing provisional charge or provisional information had been worked out, and in 2019 this bill was almost finalised, but there was a clear lack of political will to bring about this fundamental change. Provisional informations and provisional charges had been widely used, dare I say abused, by the police as from 2015, and many political figures had to suffer the torments and anguish resulting from the arbitrary use of that procedure. Ceci explique bien cela. I wish to inform the House that this government is determined to introduce the Police and Criminal Justice Bill before the National Assembly after consultations are completed. Since the beginning of this year, my office has been looking into improvements that can be brought to existing versions of the bill, the latest one dated 2019. My office has already begun formal consultations with the Office of the DPP and the Office of the Commissioner of Police in relation to the finalisation of the Police and Criminal Justice Bill. Indeed, a copy of an initial 2025 Police and Criminal Justice Bill has been sent to the Office of the DPP and that of the Commissioner of Police for their views and input. But let me say this for the benefit of the House and of the general public. It is also my intention to widen the scope of these consultations to include stakeholders such as, but of course not limited to, Transparency International, the NGO Dis-moi, and other relevant NGOs and organizations. What must be emphasized is that we shall be doing away with provisional charges as we know them today. But there is a need to formulate a new process to be adopted by investigative authorities, which will now have to work in closer collaboration with the prosecuting authority. It is in this vein that we are also working on the National Prosecution Service Bill and the Mauritius National Crime Agency Bill. This is indeed a very tall order, given the limited resources available at my office, which, it bears reminding, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, is the smallest budget of all ministries. The Police and Criminal Justice Bill will indeed revolutionize the criminal justice system and will require the buy-in of the Office of the DPP and that of the Commissioner of Police to be workable so that it will not hinder investigating authorities whilst ensuring that fundamental rights are preserved and protected. Let me end with a word of caution. Putting a bill through Parliament, especially this one, may be probably the easiest part. What will also be needed is, and that is probably more important, first of all, a change in the mindset of investigative authorities. Secondly, the necessity for training for all stakeholders in the criminal justice system. And thirdly, capacity building of important departments such as forensics and cybersecurity.
Yes, okay. The Honourable First Member for Savard and Bakri.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. B936, please.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. Regarding Part A, B, C, D, and E of the question, I wish to inform the House that these elements of information are available at the level of ministries and departments. The General Office Management Unit of my ministry only gives necessary clearances to enable ministries and departments to proceed with the signature of lease agreements with private building owners, subject to availability of funds, concurrence to rental rates as recommended by the Valuation Department, structural soundness of the private building as determined by my ministry, among others. In the same vein, my ministry also rents office space from various private owners. The total annual rental payable amounts to around 42.7 million. If I take into account the rent paid by parastatal bodies under the aegis of my ministry, such as RDA, CIA, LDA, and the ISCL, the total amount payable will be around 70 million rupees. In view thereof, we are exploring the possibility of setting up an M&I house which would regroup all departments and divisions of my ministry into one strategic location. The project is expected to be implemented under a suitable private-public partnership model. This bold initiative aims at improving the efficiency and effectiveness in service delivery and would bring positive spillover benefits to the country at large. For convenience purposes, information pertaining to Part A, name of the owners, Part B, extent and location thereof, Part C, monthly rental and total annual rental payable, and Part D, duration of the lease, have been compiled. I'm tabling copy thereof to the House. With respect to the last part of the question, I wish to reassure the House that all buildings currently being rented by my ministry are in very good state and do not require any major renovation or maintenance.
Honourable Second Member for Bourgogne-Franche-Comté.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Vice-président. B937.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, with a view to addressing the flooding issues holistically and mitigating the incidents of flooding in the region of La Louise, I'm informed that the NDU has appointed Vyas Consulting Engineers Limited as consultant for the design and supervision for flood mitigation measures in the region of La Louise, La Sousse, and Candos-Quatre-Bornes. Owing to the complexity of the project and the site conditions, the project will be implemented in different phases. The Land Drainage Authority has recommended as phase 1, construction of absorption drains along Lal Bahadur Sastri Avenue and Candos-Vakwa Road as short-term measures. Phase 2 will involve works along Boundary Road, Sichern Road, Nehru Road, and Phoenix Boson Road, amongst others. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I'm further informed that the project proposals for the short-term measures have been submitted by the consultant on 22nd July 2025. Consequently, the project proposals and drawings were circulated to different stakeholders, including the municipality of Quatre-Bornes, the RDA, the Victoria Hospital, and the Wastewater Management Authority on 31st July 2025. A presentation on the project proposal was also held on 6 August 2025 with all the stakeholders. As at date, only the Municipal Council of Catrabon has submitted its views requesting the NDU to amend the design by constructing the absorption drain along Boundary Road with 2 retention ponds instead of constructing an absorption drain along Candos-Vacqua Road as initially recommended by the LDA. Consequently, the request for the change in design proposed by the Municipal Council of Catrabon has been forwarded to the LDA for consideration on 29 September 2025. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, on the other hand, the Road Development Authority has informed that it is not agreeable to the proposed construction of a stormwater absorption drain and provision of metal ratings along the carriageway of the Candos-Vacqua Road because of the following reasons. Same will severely affect the pavement structure of the road. Second, represent road safety hazards. Third, cause serious traffic issues during implementation. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, in view of the conflicting views, I've requested the Chief Project Manager of the NDU to chair a technical committee with all its stakeholders and to come up with urgent implementable measures to mitigate flooding in the region of La Louise, Catrabon.
Yes.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Vice-président. Je remercie le ministre pour sa réponse. In view of a recurrent flooding affecting residents and road users, could the minister inform the House whether urgent measures can be envisaged? Please, thank you.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I'm sure my colleague knows the complexity of the work over there. Even in certain regions, we have to relocate houses so we cannot go abruptly, we don't go quickly. So that's why I put up a technical committee which I've asked to work very fast and to come with recommendation with immediate and short-term measures, what can be done.
Honorable First Member for Port-Vito, Thelmont-Island.
Merci, Monsieur le Vice-président. Question B 938.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the Solid Waste Management Division of my ministry that in constituency number 4, there are 38 housing units at Long Mountain and 3 at Kongoma which still contain cemented asbestos sheets. It should be noted that it is only upon request from owners of the housing units that the Solid Waste Management Division proceeds with the dismantling and removal of the asbestos sheets from the housing units. A contract has recently been awarded by my ministry for the dismantling, removal and disposal of asbestos sheets from the housing units. According to a survey carried out by the Ministry of Housing and Lands recently, there are still around 1,560 ex-CHA housing units containing asbestos. So, Deputy Speaker, sir, in order to expedite matters with respect to this long-standing issue, an interministerial committee is being set up at the level of my ministry and the chair of Honorable Joanna Béranger, Junior Minister, comprising representatives of the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Housing and Lands, Ministry of National Infrastructure, Ministry of Health and Wellness, Ministry of Local Government, and my ministry to make recommendations to government for the complete phasing out of the housing units containing asbestos sheets in Mauritius. The first meeting is scheduled to be held this Friday, 31st October 2025.
Yes, Madame.
Je remercie le ministre de prendre ce problème à cœur, connaissant la détresse et l'anxiété des habitants de Cité EDC à Montagne Longue. Est-ce que l'honorable ministre peut-il donner l'assurance qu'une solution sera trouvée au plus vite afin d'alléger la souffrance de mes mandants? Merci.
Monsieur le Vice-président, c'est un problème que nous avons nous-mêmes dans l'opposition combattue. Nous avons dénoncé la lenteur du précédent gouvernement. C'est un héritage lourd, mais je suis sûr qu'avec la compréhension, avec l'aide de tout un chacun, mais surtout avec l'aide de mon collègue, que nous trouvons des solutions à court terme et bien rapides.
Yes, Honorable. Yeah.
Question. I heard the Honorable Minister mentioning about the interministerial committee that will be set up to look at the effects of asbestos in the community. We did have an Addison report that was set up, which came following the intervention of now our Deputy Prime Minister at the time. And will this interministerial liaise have any implication as to what was recommended by the Addison report, so that these 3,115 houses that were supposed to have asbestos since Cyclone Carol will finally be eradicated? Thank you.
Monsieur le Président, nous allons prendre tous les rapports que nous avons eus, les récents rapports que mon collègue a fait commanditer, et venir le plus rapidement avec une solution. Parce que nous avons, déjà dans le passé, il y a eu, je crois, 800 millions qui a été voté dans un budget précédent, mais rien n'a été fait au fil des années. Maintenant, nous avons la ferme intention, les besoins se trouvent dans plusieurs circonscriptions, mais plusieurs sont dans un état les plus, je ne vais pas dire déplorables, difficiles à vivre pour ces occupants, mais il est notre ferme intention de trouver une solution, surtout avec l'aide des plus chacun.
Honorable Second Member for Voting.
Yes, thank you. B939. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. Presently, 2 islets found in the lagoon of Rodrigue, namely Ile Coco and
Honorable
Ile
Minister,
Sab.
you are stepping in for the Minister of...
Yes, I'm sorry.
You
yes.
have to inform the House so that we
Okay.
don't record.
Okay, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, because I'm answering on behalf of my colleague. Presently, 2 islets found in the lagoon of Rodrigue, namely Ile Coco and Ile Sab, are declared as nature reserves under the second schedule of the Forest and Reserve Act. As per existing legal provisions, the management of nature reserves fall under the responsibility of Forestry Service of my ministry. In the case of Rodrigue, I am however informed that Ile Coco and Ile Sab are being managed by the Forestry Service of Rodrigue pursuant to Section 26 and 54 of the Rodrigue Regional Assembly Act. In these circumstances, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, no amendment is warranted under the Forest and Reserves Act with regard to the vesting of the responsibility for the management of the 2 islets in the Rodrigue Regional Assembly. I should nevertheless inform the House that drafting instructions for a new Forest and Reserve Bill, which would repeal and replace the current Act, have already been conveyed to the Attorney General's office. Once a draft version of the bill is obtained, our colleagues from the Rodrigue Regional Assembly will be consulted thereon, including any proposal to declare other islets in the lagoon of Rodrigue as nature reserves.
No question. The Honorable Fourth. No, will be. The Honorable First Member for Savannah Black River. Understand B941 has been withdrawn.
B942, please.
Monsieur le Vice-président, concernant la partie A de la question, la WMA m'informe que la cité La Ferme à Bambou est un lotissement de type Shares A, comprenant environ 275 logements. Le quartier était sujet à des fréquents débordements d'eau usée, causant de graves problèmes et des désagréments aux résidents. Afin d'apporter une solution durable à ces problèmes, la WMA a lancé un projet d'assainissement à la résidence La Ferme selon une formule conception-construction. Ce projet comprenait 3 volets principaux. La construction d'un égout routier à la résidence La Ferme, à Bambou, le raccordement des maisons et la construction d'un collecteur le long de l'A3 à Bambou. À la suite d'un appel d'offres mené par la Central Procurement Board, le contrat a été attribué à Serveng Company Limited le 4 juillet 2023. Les travaux ont commencé le 28 juillet 2023 et ont été pratiquement achevés le 15 août 2025. L'entrepreneur procède actuellement à la remise en état final de la route dans la cité La Ferme et celle-ci devrait être achevée d'ici fin octobre 2025. À ce jour, 3,1 km de conduits d'égout ont été posés et 3,3 km de tuyaux de la Central Water Authority ont été remplacés dans le cadre de ce contrat. Concernant la partie A de la question, la WMA m'informe que 220 foyers sur 270 sont raccordés au réseau d'assainissement public. Les 50 foyers situés le long d'une partie de la A3, Black River Road, Mahatma Gandhi Lane, Aka Azad Lane et Kubaramwa Lane n'ont pas pu être raccordés, suite aux objections de certains résidents. La WMA mènera une campagne de communication dans les semaines à venir concernant les raccordements restants, donc les 50 restants. Et en l'absence d'objection des résidents concernés, les locaux seront raccordés au réseau conformément au prochain contrat cadre qui devrait être attribué par la WMA en décembre de cette année-ci, au plus tard, première semaine de janvier de l'année prochaine. En ce qui concerne la partie B de la question, la WMA m'informe qu'aucune somme de variation n'a été émise en vertu du contrat. Monsieur le Président, quant à la partie C de la question, je suis en outre informé par la WMA que l'avenue de l'Indépendance se situe en dehors de la zone du projet. Il est à noter que l'avenue Indépendance est située dans un lotissement Mont-Repos, ex-Sugar Industry Labour Welfare Fund à Bambou, qui se compose d'environ 50 maisons et se trouve à environ 100 mètres du nouveau lotissement NSLD actuellement en construction. Le système d'évacuation des eaux usées de la cité Mont-Repos se compose d'un réseau d'égouts interne, actuellement raccordé à 2 fosses septiques communes. Bien que le quartier ne soit pas raccordé au tout à l'égout public, la WMA assure, et je m'assure aussi, sur demande, des services de pompage pour vider la fosse septique commune afin de réduire les nuisances pour des raisons humanitaires. Comme il ne s'agit pas d'une solution durable, la WMA a contacté la NSLD en vue de fournir une solution permanente qui comprendra la déconnexion du réseau interne du domaine du système communal et sa reconnexion par gravité à son nouveau système d'égout construit. Le 4 septembre 2025, donc le mois dernier, la NSLD a informé la WMA qu'elle prendrait en charge la reconnexion du domaine à sa nouvelle station de pompage. La reconnexion du lotissement de Mont-Repos à la nouvelle station du NSLD devrait être achevée d'ici mai 2026, dans à peu près 4 à 6 mois. Merci.
Second member for Belrose Calbo.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Vice-président. 9B 943. Merci.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I am informed by Metro Express Limited that to address the issue of lack of parking, pick-up and drop-off facilities around the Catrobon Light Rail Station, 4 plots of land situated near Courts Mammoth building were acquired by the Ministry of Housing and Lands and handed over to MEL in February 2024. Subsequently, in June 2024, MEL awarded a contract for the sum of 14.9 million rupees, inclusive of VAT. It's a long figure, but I'm going to mention 14.9, to Transinvest Construction Limited for the provision of lay-by with shelter and toilets at Catrobon Station. The project consists of the following. Number 1, construction of public toilet blocks. Number 2, office for male officers. Number 3, parking space for vehicle and related amenities. And number 4, bus lay-by along Victoria Avenue. However, I'm informed that at a meeting held at the Municipal Council of Catrobon in July 2024, MEL was requested to examine the possibility of foregoing those plots of land for the provision of additional bus bays required under the Catrobon Urban Terminal project. At the time, the construction of the Park and Ride project was well underway, and it would have been difficult to alter the scope of the project without entailing contractual and financial implications. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, in August 2024, MEL had received a petition from the residents of the locality expressing their serious concerns to the conversion of the proposed parking site into bus bays. Concerns raised pertain essentially to traffic congestion, safety, noise and air pollution, as well as privacy issues, in view of this, that the site lies within a residential zone. disruption of local access arising from movement of buses for alighting and boarding of passengers throughout the day was evoked as another major issue. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, in January this year, I had chaired a meeting on the issue whereby it was agreed that the construction works for the parking facilities would be temporarily put on hold pending a final decision on the implementation of the Quatre-Bornes urban terminal project. As at date, the construction of the toilet block has been completed and MEL is in the process of handing over the site to the municipality of Quatre-Bornes for its operation. The construction of the bus lay-by has also been completed and is in use. I am informed that the Council will launch an expression of interest shortly for its operation. According to the information obtained from MEL, 53% of the works have been completed in regard to the parking space. I am further informed by the Ministry of Local Government that in light, I think this is important, of the complaints received from inhabitants against the proposed bus holding area traffic centre, the Council has at its public infrastructure meeting on 13 October 2025, that is 2 weeks ago, decided that the said site be maintained for the construction of the park and ride facility.
Yes, one of you.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Vice-président. Could the Minister inform the House whether consultations have been held with residents and stakeholders who signed the petition, please? Thank you.
Seemingly, that has been done at the level of the Municipal City Council of Quatre-Bornes for them to arrive at that recommendation 2 weeks ago. Seemingly, yeah.
Second one, please, last one.
Okay, last one, quick.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Would the Minister inform the House whether an environmental impact assessment or traffic impact study has been conducted to ensure that the proposed parking area will not worsen congestion on Victoria Avenue? Thank you.
You mean for the park and ride for Metro Express Limited? I can do that. Yeah. Thank you.
The first member for La Caverne, Felix.
B944, please.
Mr. the Deputy Speaker, sir, we are profoundly disheartened by the atrocities which have been taking place in Gaza. For the past 2 years, we have witnessed the humanitarian tragedies taking place there, with more than 65,000 casualties, mainly women and children. On our part, we continue to closely follow developments surrounding the ceasefire agreement reached under the 20 points peace plan proposed by the US President Donald Trump on 29th of September 2025. In answer to part A of the question, the House may recall that Mauritius has always shown its unwavering support for the legitimate struggle of the Palestinian people and has forcefully condemned Israel for its violations of humanitarian law. We have consistently voiced out our long-standing principled position in favor of a just and sustainable peace in the Middle East, shared widely by the international community, which is the two-state solution. As at now, 158 member states of the United Nations, including Mauritius, have recognized the state of Palestine, representing more than 80% of the United Nations membership. A lasting solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict can only be achieved by peaceful means based on relevant United Nations resolutions and in accordance with international law on the principle of the two-state solution, which indeed represents the only viable option to bring an end to this enduring conflict. I would like to inform the House that on the 18th of August 2025, the Palestinian Minister of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates sent me a letter conveying the profound appreciation of Palestine on the clear and principled position of Mauritius, which reaffirms the inherent and inalienable rights of the Palestinian people to life, dignity, and statehood. A copy of the letter is being tabled for the benefit of the House. On the other hand, I wish to underscore that Mauritius has consistently lent its support for the Palestinian cause by voting in favor of resolutions, decisions at the level of various United Nations bodies like the General Assembly, the Human Rights Council, and UNESCO. The most recent illustration of our support was on the 25th of August 2025, when Mauritius endorsed the New York Declaration on the peaceful settlement of the question of Palestine and the implementation of the two-state solution that was adopted at the high-level international conference in July 2025. The New York Declaration highlights the international community's collective responsibility to bring a definite end to the decades-long conflict through political and diplomatic means. During the high-level international conference, in line with our well-established practice, Mauritius strongly reiterated our long-standing support for Palestine. The same position was reiterated by Mauritius during the high-level week of the UN General Assembly on 22nd of September 2025. I also wish to place on record that Mauritius was not present during the address of the Prime Minister of Israel on the UN General Assembly on the 26th September 2025. At its session of 19 September 2025, Cabinet agreed to make a cash donation of 50,000 USD to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East to support humanitarian action for the people of Palestine. With regards to part B of the question, regarding the severance of ties with Israel, I wish to point out the following. Diplomatic relations were established with Israel in March 1968. Those relations were severed on 7th of July 1976. Mauritius recognized the Palestine Liberation Organization, the PLO, in May 1979, and relations with Israel were re-established on the 29th of September 1993, following the signature of the Israel-PLO peace agreement on the 13th of September 1993. Since election of this new government in November 2024, my ministry has ensured that bilateral exchanges with Israel be reduced purposefully to a minimum. For instance, invitations for our ministers to visit Israel have been turned down. Technical cooperation through Israel's official International Development Cooperation Program has been stalled. The request for an Israeli airline to operate direct flights from Israel to Mauritius this year has not been acceded to. As a result of the war on a few countries like Jordan, Bahrain, Turkey, Honduras, South Africa and Chad, and Chile as well, have recalled the ambassadors from Israel, whilst others like Belize, Bolivia, Colombia, and Nicaragua have severed diplomatic relations with Israel. It is felt that the severance of diplomatic ties is of an extreme order, as this might adversely affect any possible influence, dialogue, and communication by Mauritius at the multilateral level for sustainable peace in the Middle East region. Maintaining our current stance, albeit at a minimum level, leaves the window open for Mauritius to advocate for a peaceful discussion between all parties. It is felt that maintaining a meaningful channel of discussion with the Israeli side is in fact in the interest of the Palestinian people. Mr. the Deputy Speaker, sir, with regards to part C of the question, the House may wish to know that Mauritius has been directly involved in international legal actions concerning Palestine, notably through its participation in the proceedings at the International Court of Justice. This involvement is aligned with our long-standing support of Mauritius for the Palestinian cause at the United Nations. In July 2023, Mauritius was one of the 57 countries to submit a written statement to the ICJ regarding the legality of Israel's policies in the occupied Palestinian territory. The submission specifically addressed the legal consequences of Israel's prolonged occupation, settlement, and annexation of Palestinian territory. Mauritius also participated in the oral proceedings at the ICJ in February 2024. In its presentation, Mauritius drew parallels between the Israeli occupation and the Chagos Occupé Lago case, and argued that if the ICJ found Israel's occupation unlawful, the latter would be obliged to end it, consistent with the 2019 ICJ ruling on the Chagos case. In July 2024, the ICJ issued its advisory opinion, concluding that Israel's continued presence in the occupied Palestinian territory is unlawful and must end. It also stated that all states have an obligation not to recognize the illegal situation and to ensure Israel's compliance with international law. Subsequently, on the 22nd of October 2025, the ICJ delivered another advisory opinion issued pursuant to United Nations General Assembly Resolution 79-232 of the 19th of December 2024 concerning the obligations of Israel with respect to the presence and activities of the United Nations, other international organizations, and third states in the occupied Palestinian territories. The court unanimously concluded that Israel is required to fulfill its obligations under international humanitarian law, including the duty to ensure that the population of the occupied Palestinian territory has access to the basic necessities of life, including food, water, clothing, bedding, shelter, fuel, medical supplies, and services. By 10 votes to 1, the court further determined that Israel must agree to and facilitate by all means at its disposal relief schemes on behalf of the population of the occupied Palestinian territory, so long as that population remains inadequately supplied, as has been the case in the Gaza Strip. This includes humanitarian relief provided by the UN and its entities, most notably the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East, as well as by other international organizations and third states. Israel is also required not to obstruct or impede search relief efforts. Furthermore, the ICJ unanimously affirmed Israel's obligation to respect the prohibition on forcible transfer and deportation in the occupied Palestinian territory and the prohibition on the use of starvation of civilians as a weapon of warfare. The ICJ will now forward the advisory opinion to the United Nations General Assembly, where a resolution is expected to be drafted by member state that first tabled that resolution for an advisory opinion in December 2024. Consistent with its policy of support to the principle of international law and the rights of the Palestinian people, Mauritius will support any UNGA resolution that would seek to implement the advisory opinion of the ICJ. Mauritius will therefore continue to support all initiatives at the level of the United Nations, African Union, and relevant multilateral fora, which are in accordance with international law and which will contribute to bringing about a just, peaceful, comprehensive, and lasting solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict based on the sanctity of the two-state solution. Thank you.
You have a question, Honorable Karia?
Yes, please. Can the minister, les ministres des Affaires étrangères, peut-il dire si le pays peut participer à l'effort international de soigner les blessés résultat des bombardements israéliens à Gaza?
Can you repeat the question?
Est-ce que le pays, d'autres pays, peut participer à l'effort international de soigner des blessés résultat des bombardements israéliens sur Gaza?
Yes, this is a very interesting question. We'll look into it, and if there is that possibility, we will definitely participate dans cet élan de solidarité. Merci.
Honorable second member for Savannah Black River.
Deputy Speaker. B945, please.
Monsieur le Vice-président, concernant la partie A de la question, la CWA m'informe qu'un réservoir de 10 mètres cubes, donc 10 000 litres, a été installé le long de Reserve Road, près du domaine Ramphol, à Bétucap. Ce réservoir est régulièrement alimenté par les camions citernes de la CWA, assurant ainsi un soulagement temporaire, je dis bien temporaire, aux habitants, notamment pendant la saison de restriction. Concernant la partie B de la question, j'en ai parlé à la CWA et elle m'a informé qu'elle propose d'installer 3 réservoirs d'eau de 30 mètres cubes chacun et de construire une station de pompage à contour prune afin de capter l'eau du forage d'Agria. Les travaux seront réalisés en interne par la CWA et elles devraient débuter dans la 3e semaine de novembre, le mois prochain, 2025. Leur durée est de 8 semaines, 2 mois. Le projet terminé, il n'y aura plus besoin d'intervention de camions-citernes dans les régions de Contour-Prune et Baie-du-Cap, assurant ainsi un approvisionnement en eau fiable et continu aux habitants de la zone. En ce qui concerne Coteau-Raffin, afin d'améliorer l'approvisionnement en eau à Coteau-Raffin, la CWA mène actuellement une étude de faisabilité pour l'installation d'un CPF, un Containerized Container Pressure, d'une capacité quotidienne de 2000 mètres cubes sur la rivière Bois-Noir. Grâce à cette production d'eau supplémentaire dirigée vers le réservoir de Bois-Cuyan, le nombre d'heures d'approvisionnement quotidienne devrait augmenter. Monsieur le vice-président, je le tiens à souligner comme mon ministère, la CWA, nous travaillons actuellement sur le nouveau protocole de distribution afin de se préparer au déficit hydrique attendu dans les semaines et dans les mois à venir. La situation sur l'île et dans les réservoirs sera surveillée quotidiennement et des mesures coordonnées seront prises pour renforcer l'intervention dans les zones les plus touchées par les coupures d'eau. Merci.
B946 has been withdrawn. So we go to the third member for Mayberg, Penmanion.
B947, please.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, on the outset, I wish to inform the House that Africa Network Information Center, also known as AFRINIC, is a company limited by guarantee incorporated under the laws of Mauritius. AFRINIC is the designated regional internet registry for the African continent, which implies that it manages and issues all the IP addresses that are used in the African region. However, due to one of the members, Cloud Innovation, there were a lot of points of contention that arose. And unfortunately, allegedly as well, many of the IP addresses that were meant for use in the African region were being used outside of Africa. That too, not for lawful, but allegedly again, unlawful purposes. And this has been ongoing for a long number of years. When we took government, we started addressing this problem because AFRINIC for Mauritius represents a very important symbol that puts Mauritius on the digital map of Africa. So this institution could have been based in any other African country, but it is based in Mauritius, and that is a matter of pride for us. With the involvement with AFRINIC of the previous government, we run the risk of losing AFRINIC to other countries in Africa. But we, thanks to the efforts of the Attorney General, whom I thank very much, and also the Prime Minister, we managed to help and to support find a solution to AFRINIC. AFRINIC had been the object of a spate of litigation by Cloud Innovation Limited, one of its own resource members, culminating into a receiver being appointed by the Supreme Court at the instance of Cloud Innovation Limited. And as a consequence, AFRINIC was placed in receivership. And because it was placed in receivership, no new IP addresses could be issued between November 2024 and July 2025. And AFRINIC was the object of a compulsory winding up petition by Cloud Innovation. And this was very dangerous for Africa. And within the African digital space, it was known and it was perceived that the judiciary of Mauritius was not handling the case properly. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the state of affairs of AFRINIC has caused a lot of unease within the regional and international internet community, thereby undermining the reputation of Mauritius as a jurisdiction internationally. And to preserve the integrity thereof, a set of actions have been undertaken, and I will not go into the details of those actions, but table the list of the actions. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Sir.
Yes, you have a supplementary question.
Could the Honourable Minister please inform the House what is being done to bring back African IP addresses from Asia?
I would like to thank the Honourable Member for this supplementary question. Now that the board has been established, the board will define the action plan with regards to recuperating the IP addresses of Africa that are being used outside. So it will be up to the board to act on this. Thank you.
The Honourable Second Member for Warding.
Yes, thank you. B948.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, the 30th session of the Conference of Parties, that is COP30, to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, will be held from 10th November to 21st November 2025 in Belém, Brazil. As a party to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, Mauritius will participate in the COP30 with the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade, leading the delegation. The delegation will comprise the Chief Commissioner of the Rodrigues Regional Assembly, the Permanent Secretary and Director Climate Change of our Ministry, as one Minister Councillor from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade. Mr. Deputy Speaker, in the context of the climate negotiations, my ministry in its capacity of a national focal point to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change has the collaboration of stakeholders, older ministries and departments and stakeholders in Rodrigues prepared a national position which has been approved by government on 10th October 2025. The national position paper will support the technical negotiations as well as the preparation of the different statements which the head of the delegation will deliver in the plenary sessions and presidency events on priority themes, including our call to the international community in respect of climate finance. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Climate Justice Fund for Africa, which was established in 2021 and supported by the governments of Sweden and the Netherlands, targeted community-based organizations, non-governmental organizations and think tanks by providing innovative and rapid response grant funding to support grassroots initiatives and movements in their efforts to address climate change and promote climate justice. I'm informed that the fund launches expression of interest at intervals, which are decided by the partners represented by their partners. A representative from the above-mentioned organization from eligible countries, including Mauritius, can apply directly to the fund to benefit from that window of opportunity. The call of proposals for this year was closed in August 2025, and new submissions could await the next call for proposal.
Yes. You have a supplement.
Yeah, this is one supplement, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. May I ask the Honourable Minister whether the Republic of Mauritius submitted on time its updated third nationally determined contributions NDC 3.0 climate action plan to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC.
Yes, we submitted well in advance.
Thank you. The Honourable Second Member for Vieux-Grapeau as well.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Sir, is question B/949, please.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, with regard to part A of the question, I'm informed that the coastal stretch from Quatre Sœurs to Bois des Amourettes within the district boundary of Grand Port contains 21 proclaimed public beaches, all of which fall under the responsibility of a beach authority. This figure includes 7 beaches which were recently redeveloped into waterfronts and officially proclaimed as public beaches in December 2024. Current cleaning services across these 21 public beaches are being provided by the Beach Authority and Mori Facilities Management Company Limited, both entities falling under the aegis of my ministry, and also by private contractors. Additionally, personnel from the Beach Authority undertake regular repairs and maintenance of amenities and infrastructure across all 21 public beaches. Mr. Deputy Speaker, as regards part B of the question, my ministry maintains an open policy regarding collaboration with non-governmental organizations and the private sector for embellishment works, which are effected under the supervision and technical guidance of my ministry. I also wish to inform the House that my ministry, through the Beach Authority and Mori Facilities Management Company Limited, and with the collaboration of the private sector and the District Council of Grand Port and NGOs, is planning to organize a large-scale cleanup campaign during the first week of December 2025 along this specific coastal stretch to further uplift the environment of this vital zone. My honourable friend and colleague, and his other colleagues of conference will be kept informed of the program.
The Honourable Third Member for Rivet-Zargui, Suyak.
Speaker, B950, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I will a bit long reply, Mr. Speaker. I wish to inform the House that Section 2.1
If a long reply, you can...
No, it's technical, so I can explain to my honourable friend, young friend. Section 21J of the 5th Schedule of the Environment Act 2024 makes provision for the Chief National Transport Commissioner of the National Land Transport Authority to be designated enforcing agency in relation to smoke and noise emission by motor vehicles. Items 8, 12, 181 and 200 of the 4th Schedule of the Road Traffic Act also provide for provision of fixed penalties for offences in relation to noise from modified exhaust system. With regard to Part A of the question, with a view to strengthening deterrence and curb down noise pollution from modified exhaust system, the fixed penalties usually in the range of 1,000 to 5,000 rupees have now been increased to 10,000 rupees as from 9th October 2025 through the Finance Act. Mr. Deputy Speaker, in addition to the fixed penalties, Regulation 20 of the Road Traffic Control of Vehicle Emissions Regulation 2002 provides that an authorized officer may issue a prohibition notice wherever test results of a motor vehicle's noise emission test exceeds the prescribed level specified in the 5th Schedule of the Road Traffic Control of Vehicle Emissions Regulation 2002 by 10 dBA. The notice prohibits the operation of a vehicle on any road until the defect has been remedied to the satisfaction of the authorized officer within 14 days as from the date of the notice. With regards to Part B of the question, existing noise regulations are being enforced on a daily basis by the Police de l'Environnement. Special operations concerning noise nuisance also conducted with the support of the divisional headquarters of the Mauritius Police Force, along with the Special Mobile Force, Police de Tourist, the Emergency Response Service, and the Environmental Health Engineering Unit of the Ministry of Health and Wellness during weekends. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I am informed that during the period January 2025 to 23rd October, 43 and 89 contraventions have been established in respect to noise emanating from modified exhaust systems and loud sound equipment installed in motor vehicles, respectively, in breach of regulations. Regulations 83.2, 83, and 185 Road Traffic Construction and Use of Vehicles Regulation 2010 concerning exhaust silencer system not in good and efficient working order and alteration of silencer, respectively. Regulation 84 and 125 on road traffic construction of use of vehicles. Regulation 2010 for using motor vehicle causing excessive noise, and the Environment Protection Control of Noise, Regulation 2022. Mr. Deputy Speaker, concerning Part C of the question, Regulation 4.4 of the Environment Protection Control of Noise, Regulation 2022 stipulates that no person shall use or cause to be used a loudspeaker, a loudhailer, an amplifier, a musical instrument, and any other electrical or mechanical device for producing sound within a radius of 100 meters, and which unreasonably interfere with the proper running of an educational or vocational institution during normal hours of instruction, a health institution, a place of worship, a court of justice, the municipal city of council or the municipal councils, the government house during hours of the sitting of the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, with regard to Part D of the question, the Information and Education Division of my ministry conducts ongoing awareness raising and sensitization activities targeting various groups, including youth, women, senior citizens, NGOs, schools, local communities, and the general public. A broad range of environmental issues are addressed, including noise pollution. The awareness activities are delivered through talks, short videos, radio spots, presentations, billboards, and posters. From January 2025 to today, 65 talks have been conducted for the benefit of various community groups. My ministry will enhance mass awareness initiatives to support the national campaign aimed at improving the living environment through stronger enforcement measures in collaboration with local authorities.
The Honorable Third Member for Grand
B 951, s'il vous plaît.
Monsieur le Vice-président, merci l'honorablement. Je suis informé par la Central Water Authority que les régions de Montchoisy, Vale, Grand-Bay, Fond-du-Sac, Sottise, Caledine, Goodlands ont des régimes d'approvisionnement en eau variant de 8 heures à 16 heures. Je suis également informé que le nombre total de plaintes concernant les régions subventionnées pour la période décembre 2024 à septembre 2025 concernant l'approvisionnement régulier en eau s'élève à 15 476. Plusieurs raisons expliquent l'approvisionnement intermittent irrégulier en eau dans ces régions. D'abord, le vieillissement et la qualité des tuyaux provoquant une baisse de pression, surtout dans les parties élevées. L'insuffisance des ressources en eau, la capacité de stockage limitée des réservoirs existants par rapport à la demande en rapide augmentation, les pannes de pompe, les coupures de courant et aussi les pertes sur le réseau de plus de 60% de notre réseau de distribution. Monsieur le vice-président, depuis ma prise de fonction, j'ai fait le point sur la situation en eau dans le Nord et mon intervention prioritaire a été d'accroître la mobilisation de l'eau dans le Nord pour améliorer l'approvisionnement en eau des habitants. Ainsi, des nouveaux forages ont été réalisés et mis en service au niveau des réservoirs de Boismont, de Forbach, de Fond-du-Sac, de Mapou, ce qui apportera des ressources en eau supplémentaires dans le réseau hydraulique. 1. Le forage de Boismont a été mis en service le 11 octobre 2025, il y a quelques jours, en injectant environ 384 mètres cubes d'eau par heure supplémentaires dans le réservoir de Boismont pour alimenter Fond-du-Sac. 2. Le forage de Forbach a été mis en service le 16 octobre 2025, la semaine dernière, et alimente 4400 mètres cubes par jour d'eau supplémentaire dans le réseau des tuyaux de Lowerville et Sottise. 3. Le forage de Fond-du-Sac devrait être mis en service d'ici mi-novembre 2025, le mois prochain, et alimentera le réseau de Fond-du-Sac. 4. Le forage de Mapou injectera de l'eau supplémentaire dans le réservoir All Goodlands d'ici fin octobre 2025 pour soutenir ces zones de service. 5. Un autre forage serait réalisé en Demica, la première semaine de novembre 2025 et injectera de l'eau dans le réservoir de Mont-Loisir-Rouillard. D'autres projets d'amélioration d'eau à moyen et à long terme de la CWA comprennent le renouvellement des tuyaux à Pointe-aux-Calonniers, Goodlands, Grand B, Pérébert, Upperville, Cap-Malheureux et la modernisation du réservoir d'équilibrage à Poudor. Donc, ces tuyaux vont être renouvelés et c'est l'engagement du gouvernement indien de nous donner 2,8 milliards de roupies pour le Pipe Replacement Programme. Monsieur le vice-président, les régions dont nous parlons aujourd'hui connaissent une demande croissante en eau en raison du développement rapide et continu de ces zones. L'augmentation des activités résidentielles et commerciales et infracturelles a naturellement exercé une pression accrue sur l'approvisionnement existant. Monsieur le vice-président, je tiens également à souligner que mon ministère, en collaboration avec toutes les parties concernées, a élaboré un plan Marshall pour l'eau, pour le secteur de l'eau, afin de essayer de remédier à la situation à court et moyen terme. Je dis bien essayer. Ce cadre vise à renforcer la mobilisation des ressources en eau dans les mois et dans les années à venir, à diversifier le mix hydrique, à améliorer l'efficacité du réseau de distribution, changement de tuyaux. Il nous faut impérativement changer ces tuyaux pour ne pas perdre 60% de l'eau que nous mettons dans l'eau. Donc, comme je disais, Monsieur le Vice-président, ce plan Marshall, principalement pour le Nord, va essayer d'augmenter la capacité de l'eau souterraine et les rivières pour pouvoir alimenter ces régions. Nous essayons de tout faire pour améliorer cette distribution. Et en passant, je remercie les membres de la circonscription numéro 5 et numéro 6 pour l'aide qu'ils nous donnent en ce qui concerne la communication avec les habitants. Merci.
The Honourable First Member for Savannah Bakriga, last question for today.
B953, please.
Honourable Minister of Energy.
Yes, coming. Monsieur 953.
Oui.
Monsieur le vice-président, je suis informé par la Central Water Authority que les régions de l'île comprenant Ficanflac, Cascavel, Tamarin, La Golette, Le Monde sont considérées comme les zones les plus soumises au stress hydrique du pays. Ces régions connaissent une pénurie d'eau principalement en raison de la capacité de production limitée par rapport au rythme rapide de développement et la forte demande des consommateurs, en particulier pendant la saison touristique de pointe et les développements résidentiels en cours. Donc, expansion insuffisante des infrastructures hydrauliques, perte d'eau dans les tuyaux, comme je le disais un peu plus tôt, et variations climatiques saisonnières. Monsieur le vice-président, je suis informé que le nombre de plaintes pour absence d'eau reçues à la CWA concernant les régions subventionnées pour la période du 17 octobre 2025 au 23 octobre 2025 s'élève à 122. Pour essayer de remédier à la situation, la CWA a mis en œuvre quelques projets dans la région. Ainsi, environ 14,6 km de tuyaux ont été remplacés par la CWA dans la région de Fic-en-Flac. La CWA a également installé un CPF à Rivière-Rempart, augmentant la production du réservoir de Bosonge de 2000 m3 par jour. Cette amélioration bénéficie directement à Cascabel et Fic-en-Flac. Il est prévu d'installer un deuxième CPF dans le mois prochain. Pas les semaines à venir, mais le mois prochain. À Tamarin, un nouveau forage à Pierrefonds. Bosonge a été foré pour renforcer l'approvisionnement en Tamarin, notamment pendant la saison difficile. L'infrastructure hydraulique existant à la CWA peine à faire face à la consommation croissante d'eau à mesure que les projets touristiques et de logement augmentent à Los Angeles. Je ne savais même pas qu'il y avait un endroit. Je connaissais New York et Manhattan, mais sur Los Angeles, je ne savais pas. Secteur de la Golette, Los Angeles. Pour pallier à ce problème, j'ai été informé que la CWR prévoit d'installer un nouveau CPF afin d'augmenter le débit d'eau alimentant le réservoir de bois pliant. Une fois opérationnel, ce projet devrait améliorer la fiabilité de l'approvisionnement en eau à la Golette. Le village du Monde est normalement alimenté par un CPF sur la rivière du Béduca. En cas de forte pluie ou d'eau boueuse, le CPF doit être temporairement coupé. Dans ce cas, l'eau est généralement détournée du réservoir de l'Embrasure pour alimenter le village d'à côté. De plus, la CWA a récemment renouvelé environ 2,8 km de tuyaux dans le village du Monde. Alors que cette région, Monsieur le Président, est en plein développement, elle continue de faire face à d'importants défis en matière d'eau. Des efforts concertés sont déployés pour moderniser les infrastructures, optimiser la production et renforcer la résilience du système en étudiant la possibilité de mobiliser des ressources supplémentaires en eau grâce à d'autres sources potentielles d'eau souterraine et de surface. La collaboration du secteur privé est actuellement sollicitée dans cette région pour mobiliser davantage d'eau douce.
Time is over. Thank you. The table has been advised that the following PQs have been withdrawn. B956, B913, B954, B958, and B957.
Motion.
Order, Prime Minister.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I move that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10.
Seconded. The question is that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Honourable members, Madam Speaker will resume the chair.
Statement by Ministers none. Public bills, first reading.
Speaker, I beg to move that the Criminal Code Amendment number 2, Bill number 26 of 2025 be read the first time.
Motion is seconded by the Deputy Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I move that the Court of Rodrigues Jurisdiction Amended Bill be read a first time.
Yes, the motion is seconded. Yes. Thank you.
Public bill, second reading.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the Criminal Code Amendment number 2, Bill of number 26 of 2025 be read a second time. Madam Speaker, in 2021, this House enacted an amendment to the Criminal Code introducing a new Section 76B. Its purpose at the time was clear. It sought to criminalize the distribution or production of coins, stamps, maps, and other official objects or documents that misrepresented our sovereignty over any part of our national territory, especially over the Chagos Archipelago. It was a legal tool crafted in response to a very specific challenge, the persistent disregard for our territorial integrity. The law must be understood against this historical background. The fight for justice over Chagos began even at the Lancaster House Conference for Independence, when Sir Sibsagar Ramgoolam opposed the then deal to dismantle Chagos from our territory. I wish here, and also after independence, and I wish here to pay tribute today to the heroes of that struggle. Among them were courageous Chagosians, including women such as the late Lisette Talap and Charlesia Alexis, who undertook hunger strikes in the 1970s. There was a Sibsagar who always saw the injustice of the pre-independence consultations for what they were, pure blackmail. In 1980, he thus secured a historical resolution of the Organization of African Unity, calling for the return of Chagos. He also raised the matter at the UN General Assembly. There was also the now Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Paul Béranger, and the MMM, who brought the issue firmly onto the national political conscience. And yes, there was also Sir Anirudh Jaglat, who agreed to follow the plan of action that we had laid down with our lawyer, Mr. Philip Sands, KC, and he went to the UN and The Hague in 2018, as we had planned if we were to win at the Tribunal of the Law of the Sea. History will remember that our victory today is built upon their unwavering efforts. Credit should also be given to a number of NGOs in Mauritius and abroad, individuals who contributed in a significant manner to the struggle for our sovereignty. Madam Speaker, in 2010, as Prime Minister, I chose to take our struggle to a new level, for the first time to bring the matter before the courts, the arbitral tribunal for the law of the sea. It was a deliberate strategy to build step by step a solid foundation in international law for our claim. Many thought we would not win, but we did. In 2015, we secured our first major success before that tribunal, with the ruling against the proposed British Marine Protected Area. And the strategy I had set in motion continued after my term in office and ultimately led in 2019 to the favorable advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice. It authoritatively determined that the Chagos Archipelago is and has always formed an integral part of the territory of Mauritius, and that the process of decolonization of Mauritius was not completed upon its succession to independence in view of the unlawful excision of the Chagos Archipelago from its territory. Subsequently, in 2021, a special chamber of the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea delivered in the maritime boundary delimitation case between Mauritius and Maldives a judgment in which it held that the determination made by the International Court of Justice in its advisory opinion of 25th February 2019 are legally binding and confirmed that Mauritius has undisputed sovereignty over the Chagos Archipelago. Now, despite this clear determination of the International Court of Justice and the International Tribunal of the Law of the Sea, the United Kingdom continued to cause stamps and coins to be issued purportedly on behalf of the so-called British Indian Ocean Territory. Some individuals, groups and entities continue to do as if Mauritius did not have sovereignty over the Chagos Archipelago. They performed actions that would only be validated by a state in the exercise of its sovereign powers. In fact, Madam Speaker, in Article 2 of the agreement we signed with the UK in relation to the Chagos, it is now expressly stated that the issuance of such coins or stamps can only be done by Mauritius as the sovereign state and nobody else. Section 76B of the Criminal Code was conceived in a specific context, where it was intended to apply only to expressions of sovereign authority on the part of a foreign state or an entity acting on behalf of such state. But as with all laws, Madam Speaker, context matters, and context evolves. Today, Mauritius stands on a very different footing. In May of this year, Mauritius and the United Kingdom signed a new treaty concerning the Chagos Archipelago, in which our sovereignty is unequivocally recognized. Article 1 of that treaty speaks for itself, and let me quote, Mauritius is sovereign over the Chagos Archipelago and in its entirety, including Diego Garcia. That solemn recognition, therefore, changes everything. The raison d'etre of Section 76B, therefore, no longer exists. Our sovereignty is no longer being questioned by any state or any international organization. The law has served its purpose, and this means that it should now make way for a new chapter. But the point is deeper, Madam Speaker, and it is important that our nation hears it from this House. Section 76B was a shield. It was not meant as a sword. It was a shield. It defended us against a persistent and well-funded campaign to deny our sovereignty. It was never intended to muzzle our own people or to criminalize debate. Now, having prevailed in our long struggle for recognition, diplomatically, legally, and morally, we must ensure that the laws we keep on our books reflect the confidence of a sovereign nation. This shield should not become a cage. It has lost its raison d'etre. Our democracy is founded on liberty, including the liberty to debate matters of national importance, even passionately. In this regard, Section 76B may create misgivings. When it was passed, some feared that one could, by merely discussing the Chagos, risk prosecution if the law is instrumentalized in a perverse manner that it so often did under the previous regime. And as Honorable Reza Otim noted during the debates at the time, it did contain some serious inconsistencies and limitations. We are not here today to rewrite history or to criticize a law that actually served a moment of necessity. It was introduced with good intentions. It demonstrated our determination to assert our sovereignty, while some countries and individuals did not fully acknowledge so. But today, clinging to that law would be counterproductive. It risks giving ammunition to those who even now try to portray Mauritius as an intolerant country of dissent or oppressive towards Chagosians who hold different views. It risks sustaining an outdated perception that our sovereignty must be defended by legal force. rather than by the strength of the law and the weight of international diplomacy that we have earned. No, Madam Speaker, even those very few Chagosians who deny our sovereignty, very often for very personal reasons, linked to their own trajectories, whether they live here or abroad, have the right to have their views and do not need to worry about facing criminal charges against them. Repealing Section 76B is an act of democratic self-confidence. It says to the world that Mauritius has no fear of the words, Mauritius does not criminalize ideas, that Mauritius lives up to its constitutional promises that guided our struggle for justice. Madam Speaker, as we repeal this provision, we must also acknowledge a wider challenge. Too many laws remain on our books that criminalize speech in ways that are out of place in a modern democracy. This is the legacy, in part, of colonial rule, and the time has come for a broad review. We will move forward with reforms to ensure that offences such as criminal defamation, or scandalizing the court, or outrage against public or religious morality do not unduly suppress legitimate expression, but instead target true harm, such as incitement to violence or hatred, abusive creations of the previous regime, such as, I laugh when I think of it, causing annoyance. Closures of ICTA will have to be reviewed as well. The Attorney General's Office is moving ahead with a comprehensive review inspired by the preliminary report of Jeffrey Robertson, KC, whom I had commissioned back in 2013. He had produced a report which has been squarely ignored by the previous regime for a whole decade. Madam Speaker, there are indeed such areas where conduct is currently criminalized, despite the fact that there is no victim is being harmed, or where there is no prejudice that cannot simply be sanctioned by civil proceedings. Criminal sanctions should not be society's default instrument in those contexts. And whenever it comes to striking a balance, such as between privacy and the public interest, the dignity of individuals and the right of the press will be guided by strong constitutional principles and by our long-standing respect for human rights. Madam Speaker, our identity is built on the foundations of democracy, the rule of law, and dignity for every Mauritian, including our compatriots of Chagosian origin, who may well hold diverse perspectives on resettlement and the future. But that is their right. There can now be only one single flag over the Chagos, our sovereign state, one nation. As the ratification process proceeds, we sincerely hope, successfully we hope, through the steps of the British Parliament, it is important that we dispel the unwarranted lies about our national character. We are a sovereign nation which values its friends, and all its friends, but which also stands by its word. We pledge to honor the commitments made in the historical Treaty of May 2025. Let us therefore stand today not only united, but unafraid. Repealing Section 76B is the natural step of a sovereign nation that has prevailed. It shows maturity, it shows that we are an état de droit, it shows that we trust our people, and it confirms that our moral victory does not need to be secured through the criminal law, but through the strength of the truth only. With these words, I commend the bill to the House.
Yes, motion needs to be seconded again. Thank you. Honourable Nasinger.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to address the House on the Criminal Code Amendment number 2, Bill number 26 of 2025. The repeal of Section 76B of the Criminal Code is not a mere act of legislative housekeeping. It is meaningful and a very impactful reform that aligns our law with the new international reality. That is, the sovereignty of Mauritius over the Chagos archipelago is recognized, affirmed, and operational. I've listened carefully to the Prime Minister. It is true that when the law was passed in 2021, possibly it was passed with good intention. I would say it was a sort of necessary evil. I will explain why there were some very important shortcomings in the law at that point in time. The Prime Minister also explained the context and how, with the repealing of the law, we are again consolidating democracy. But I would like to hammer on the context, Madam the Speaker. Section 76B was enacted to criminalize the so-called misrepresentation of the sovereignty of Mauritius by prohibiting maps, stamps, coins, or documents depicting Chagos as anything other than Mauritian. At that time, our sovereignty was still being contested internationally. The former approach sought to defend our claims symbolically through criminal law, and I lay emphasis on the symbolical approach. Madam Speaker, as explained by the Prime Minister, the context has changed fundamentally. In May 2025, Mauritius and the United Kingdom, as you know, signed a landmark treaty by which the United Kingdom, unequivocally, as pointed out by the Prime Minister, recognized Mauritian sovereignty over the Chagos archipelago. The British Parliament, a few days back, has also ratified this outcome. And the territorial dispute that endured since 1965 is, for all practical purposes, resolved. Keeping Section 76B, I would say, would be redundant and maybe a risk making our law appear disconnected from the facts and recent events. Therefore, repeal is necessary to ensure our statute book reflects international truth. Mauritius is no longer asserting or claiming sovereignty. It now exercises the sovereignty. We have moved from what I would qualify as a defensive stance to proactive governance. So how we got here? That is, from litigation to recognition. Madam Speaker, the road to the treaty was arduous, exacting, and painstaking, as explained by the Prime Minister. The ICJ advisory opinion in February 2019 found the separation of Chagos in 1965 to be unlawful and urged the UK to end its administration as rapidly as possible. The United Nations General Assembly resolution endorsed the ICJ's view and called for international support to complete our decolonization. And also, as explained by the Prime Minister, the International Tribunal on Law of the Sea reaffirmed Mauritian sovereign rights and clarified maritime entitlements in the Indian Ocean. At that point in time, this was triggered by the Prime Minister. And you will remember how the Prime Minister and his team at that point in time chose deliberately one very famous international barrister, Jan Brownlee, who unfortunately passed away, and subsequently it was the Prime Minister and his team who chose also Mr. Philip Sands. Building on these milestones, quiet, persistent diplomacy, coordinated between the Prime Minister's office, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the DPM's office, the AG's office, spearheaded by the AG himself, moved us from principle to agreement. By early 2025, negotiations, as you know, Madam Speaker, culminated in the treaty that the UK Parliament has ratified, as I mentioned before. So the final vote of the House of Lords soon will close the chapter. The skeptics and birds of bad omen did not believe in the historical achievement. They were making a mockery of our patient and quiet diplomacy. They underestimated the capacity of our Prime Minister, the DPM, and the Attorney General, and our Minister of Foreign Affairs to be real champions of what I would qualify as quiet and efficient diplomacy. This is not simply a legal milestone, it is the completion of decolonization. So this is what I would also qualify as quiet diplomacy over noisy posturing as it happened with the previous regime. This achievement was not born out of provocation or theatrics. It was delivered by calm, credible, and respectful diplomacy, the kind that builds trust, not tension. Grandstanding may steer applause at home, I agree, but it seldom changes minds abroad. What delivered results were clarity of purpose, legal consistency, and diplomatic composure. No comparison with the diplomacy, as in the past, anchored in vulgarity, if you still remember, tempestuousness under the previous regime. Fiery declarations may sound patriotic, but unfortunately does not yield results. What works is credibility, consistency, as I mentioned. This is what brought our victory. Therefore, it is undeniable that the deal struck by the actual government is far better than the one supposedly concluded by the previous regime, although not perfect, I would agree. Diplomacy, as I mentioned very often, in international fora is an art and a craft. So from optics to outcomes, what previous approaches sought symbolical victories through domestic criminalization, this government pursued recognition, resolution, and implementation. The treaty not only affirms sovereignty, establishes frameworks for cooperation, very important, and environment, sustainable development, and also, what is important, the welfare of the Sargosians. So this is a sort of diplomacy with a new government that delivers. We just not talk, we walk the talk. Now, I'm here also to explain, to a certain extent, I agree that the Prime Minister mentioned there was possibly good intention when the law was passed, but Madam Speaker, you will see that Section 76B explicitly or implicitly tried to cast at that point in time extraterritorial shadows, punishing acts committed outside Mauritius by non-nationals for how they depicted our territory. And you know, as a small country, extraterritorial law is rare, I would say a heavy tool, justified only for universally condemned offenses, for example, terrorism, piracy, trafficking, and also backed by strong international cooperation. But for a small but respected state, laws with global pretensions are neither credible or enforceable. They invite very often legal friction and distract from substantive statecraft. The idea that Mauritius could prosecute a publisher in a foreign capital for a map was at best, as I mentioned before, symbolical posturing, or at worst, a legal absurdity. Sovereignty is secured by treaties and effective governments, and this is what we did, this is what our Prime Minister did, not by unreachable criminal sanctions. Repeal enables also freedom and scholarship and confidence. Section 76B, at that point in time, cast a Damocles sword over legitimate actors, publishers, NGOs, academics, cartographers, journalists. And unfortunately, even if there was good intention, you will see that ambiguity chilled discussion and research. And as an ex-academic, I've always been championing academic freedom. So with sovereignty now settled, we should encourage writers and scholars to analyze, document, and critique this chapter of our history. There is nothing wrong to criticize the outcome of what we got, without fear and without criminal liability. That is what confidence looks like in a mature republic, and for sure we are a mature republic with this new government now. So rule of law and proportionality. Another shortcoming you will see, normally, generally, criminal provisions must be clear, necessary, and also enforceable. Unfortunately, when we analyze closely Section 76B, it was vague, and this has been also criticized by the Supreme Court in a landmark judgment, and also the law by restoring discipline to our criminal code and reserving penal sanctions only for real harms, not for abstraction. Let me reassure the House removing Section 76B does not in any way weaken protection of national integrity. Existing offences already guard the Republic. For example, fraud, forgery, sedition, and the National Flag Act. So these are balanced and enforceable, Madam the Speaker. So we also, you will see, Madam Speaker, that this repeal is only a sort of step number one. And we must, and this is where, at this point, I would invite the SLO and the Office of the AG to start more technical work to amend other laws. For example, I'm just making some recommendations. We must redefine baselines around Chagos and update coordinates of our EEZ. Very important to update coordinates of the new EEZ that we are having, and also to redefine our continental shelf and the UNCLOS, and also to notify the Division for Ocean Affairs and the Law of the Sea accordingly. This is not mere cartography, Madam the Speaker. It is the legal consolidation of our regained maritime space and resources. Regarding fisheries, what we have to do, as I mentioned, this is only a first step. We will have to align the Fisheries and Marine Resources Act and regulations to the new EEZ that we are having. Also, what we have to do is update licensing for all vessels operating in the Chagos waters, extend monitoring, control, and surveillance regarding illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, and IUU enforcement, expand marine control and satellite surveillance, file updated notifications within the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission. We know that our Deputy Prime Minister is doing a lot of work on that, and relevant regional fisheries management organizations. So, Madam Speaker, we also have to look at other laws. For example, look at how we're going to deliver special visa, special work permit when it comes to the archipelagos, with specific regulations for Chagos, for Diego Garcia. Maybe there has to be a sort of co-management. I'm just giving some recommendations. Madam Speaker, you will see that the Chagos Archipelago is among the world's most pristine marine resources. Mainland environmental rules cannot simply be transplanted in the context of the Chagos Archipelagos. I'm sure my good friend, Minister Rajesh Bhagwan, and Junior Minister Béranger will look into the matter. We will need also, Madam Speaker, a special EIA regime. We must establish a special EIA framework with lower triggers, cumulative impact assessments, and a dedicated Chagos Environmental Directorate for permitting and monitoring. We need also to redefine. I know that the British did it, but we have to redefine marine parks and MPAs with the gain of the Chagos Archipelagos. Regarding regional commitments, we must also mainstream our obligations, as I mentioned before, under the IOTC and the RFMOs, the Convention on Migratory Species and Migratory Flyways, and advanced SDG 14, that is life below water. We have also to revisit trade, customs, and port state control. So what I want to convey, Madam the Speaker, is that this is the first step. We have to commend the SLO, we have to commend the Prime Minister and the AG for taking the initiative, but I'm sure that a lot of work remains to be done. I know that the AG is working very hard. I know that his team at the SLO is working very hard, but I've just been mentioning some other laws, some other regulations which have to be amended in order to mainstream the content of the treaty and what we have gained from the historical treaty. Thank you for your attention, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. Those of you who have come to visit me must have noticed that I've got rid of the map where BIOT was still, of course, on the big map. So maybe if you have one in your office, you should have a quick look and maybe get rid of these maps. And then make sure you get new ones. Thank you very much. Let's go for tea for half an hour. We come back at 5.